Hey everybody, DJV filling in for Pastor Joe here this morning. I'll keep it short and sweet because I think the discussions you're going to have in your homes, your church homes, is probably more important. But I do want to get you headed in a direction that we can all kind of discuss, and I would love to even hear some feedback at some point. Whether you're in my house, I'll talk to you directly. But I need someone in the other houses. Be close to that pause button because I'll be the one kind of facilitating the questions. And so I'll give you time to hit pause and then maybe start a little discussion about what we're talking about. So it's kind of like an interactive message today. Um, what I've got written behind me says, don't expect experience. All right. Leave the start and the goal out for a second, but don't expect experience. I have a shameless plug to my Chicago Bulls of the 90s right above. That phrase, give everything, is actually a good one. But the phrase, don't expect experience, I wrote that down a couple of Sundays ago, maybe a month and a half ago. Dave Short was talking, and he was talking about being bold. And I took my notes out and I wrote down, don't expect experience. I actually left going, okay, why did I write that down? Last year my big phrase was it's day one. And I figured out that if I tag every day as if it was day one, I'll never feel like I lose momentum. So it's always a new start. It's a new day. It's a new opportunity. And I think one of the things that Dave talks about, or how what comes across, is that he attacks it the same way. What does God want him to do in that moment and in a certain situation? And he kind of just like leaves it up to God then to do what he wanted, for God's will to unfold. And as long as Dave does what he's told to do, don't expect. I think we expect way more than we even think we do. I'm going to start you off, and then I want you to pause the video, and I want you to discuss times in your life that you can totally see where you expected something, and it came back to bite you. I will start out with as a child, you were expecting a present at Christmas, and then you didn't get the present you were expecting. How did that make you feel? How about as a parent, when you bought them the gift that they wanted, you gave it to them, and you were expecting them to act one way, and they didn't act the way you were expecting them to? You could take that further. I'm going to say more in your personal life, maybe in a job, maybe in another situation. So maybe pause and you can share with each other times that you had expectations and then your expectations weren't met. See how that goes. Go ahead and hit pause and give a little talk. And I'm going to make a silly face here as you pause. All right, you're back. Did you even pause it, or did you just let that roll? And now it's kind of awkward that I just kept talking. I want to talk about that expectations, and I wanted to look up what expectations mean, because when I think of expectations, it's, I expect my kids to do something. What happens when they don't do it? I get upset. I expect something from my boss. What happens when he doesn't come through on his end? Or what if I'm the employer, then I'm expecting some from my employees and they don't follow through? What if he expects something from a situation with a friend, and we expect to meet up on Friday, and then they cancel? Where do I leave that, or what do I do with that? So I wanted to look up the word expect and figure out, why did I feel that I needed to write down don't expect. And the definition of expect is anticipation, comma, hope, comma, trust. Anticipation, hope, and trust. And so that kind of made me think a little bit differently here. Anticipation is probably what we all think of originally, or maybe hope, right? Because we're hoping that we get this Christmas present, or we're hoping that someone reacts a certain way when we do something for them, or we're hoping that that driver pays attention when we're trying to merge, and so you anticipate and you hope. And in all the situations that I've mentioned already, I feel like we were let down eventually by someone or something, or maybe a lack thereof of their response. Um, I have a start and a goal here. And Joe has talked about this before. He's drawn it on the board, and he's talked about the ebb and flow of a day or your life or a week or a month. and how sometimes you have good and sometimes you have bad. Sometimes you're prayer and sometimes there's action. Sometimes there's this, sometimes there's that. You might have also seen the meme where, here's the expectation. You're going to start here and end here, and it's a straight line. And then next thing you know, there's caverns and there's mountains and there's a lake you got to get across to get to the goal that you had originally sent. What I'm proposing to you is that you have a start and you set a goal, and then you have no expectation of what's in between. Um, I'm going to continue with what I had looked up. The Bible verse, Romans 15:13, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. So there's a expectation of God. There's a hope in God, so that that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. So you could say, well, you shouldn't expect anything from people, but we can expect from God. Here's what I like about having a church at home is because I think we can get a little discussion. I think sometimes when we put an expectation in God, we put him in a little corner. We go ahead and we write the line in between. God, I'm expecting this from you, and here's the line I want you to draw, God. Have you ever done that? Have you ever set an expectation for God, but you were the one that filled in the gap? To me, expectation is, I got to see my mirror here. Expectation is the goal, right? Expectation is, here's what I expect. And God, this is how I want you to get me there. I want to put my hope in him. I want to have faith in him. I want to have trust in him. But sometimes this isn't the line he draws. So maybe pause. Let's go pause one more time before we get to the end here. Pause, and I want you to discuss expectations in people versus expectations in God. And then what does that look like with that line drawn in between? How do you kind of navigate that line between? Is there a way for us not to have that expectation in the middle of what God is supposed to do as far as getting to our goal? So expectations of people versus expectations of God versus our expectations of God. Go ahead and hit pause and see if that can facilitate something. Or if you just have something to say that doesn't even relate to that, but kind of got you thinking while I was talking here, go ahead and hit pause, and then we'll come back for one more wrap up as I freeze here. I'm going to erase this line here, and we're going to wrap up. I went skydiving with David and Reagan, and I didn't have any expectations of skydiving. Some people are like, well, it's going to feel like you're floating, or it's going to feel like this, or it's going to feel, and I didn't want any expectations. I go, okay, and then I just kind of like let it release. We could have taken pictures beforehand. We could have taken video. We could have filmed it when we landed. I didn't want any of that. I didn't want any expectations. And I just wanted to experience. I just wanted to experience jumping out of a plane. And I wanted to experience a free fall like something most people will never experience. I wanted to experience hanging there from the parachute as we came down to the ground. And then I wanted to experience what it was like to be 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5 feet from the ground and then land. I didn't bring my phone in. I left it in the car. We did take a quick picture when we were finally done, wrapped up in the building. But I wanted to just experience that moment. And people said, well, why didn't you take a video? We would have liked to see it. I'm like, because I wanted to just experience it. I think we are underestimate just experiencing. I let the dog out. We sit on our phone while the dog's out. Then when he comes back to the door, we yell for the dog to come back in. We're on our phone. There's no experience there. So one day I said, well, I'll just go sit outside while he's walking around the yard. And then I was on my phone. And then I got up and he's back. So, but I was at least outside. Then one day I said, well, I'm just going to leave my phone inside and I'm just going to go outside and I'm just going to experience the day like the dog does. And I watched him and the sun is shining. It was about 80 degrees. and the sun is shining, and he's listening. All of a sudden, I could see why his ear perked up, because there's a dog barking that you never even notice, 2 blocks over, or you hear a bird chirp. You're like, I didn't even know we had those kind of birds. I was just experiencing. Then he finally just laid in the grass, right in the sun, right in the grass, and I'm like, that looks like the most comfortable thing to do right now. And I got out of my chair and I just lay down in the grass next to this 140-pound dog. He's probably driving our house crazy right now at the Vales household. But it was just a matter of experiencing the sun. And I think we were out there maybe 20, 30 minutes, but it was just something different about it, just experiencing nature just a little bit. When I jumped out of the plane, I just wanted to experience it. I didn't want to have any preconceived notions. I didn't want to draw any line from start to the goal. I can set a goal. I can have something that I'm shooting for. I know that it's my job to do things in between the start and the end. But what if we had a prayer for God? What if we had an expectation for God? And then we let him fill in the story. And we didn't expect for it to go anyway. What if we had a job we were praying for and we didn't pray, Lord, I really want to work at Disney? What if it was, Lord, I put in the work at school and I want to be where you want me to be. And I'm going to realize that any door is opened is because you want it. And it may take a day and it may take 3 years, but you're going to get me there. And I'm going to have trust and faith in you. I'm always going to do my part. I'm always going to be doing studying. I'm always going to be working. But I know that you've got your plan is the right plan. And I'm not going to have any expectations in between my start and my goal. Whatever happens in the middle, I'll be able to look back on it and have said that I experienced it. What do you think about that take? What do you think about experiencing life? Slowing down, putting the phone away. By the way, they say 20 minutes 3 times a week is enough to get recentered in nature. Go outside, no electronics, and just get recentered. But what if we started to experience nature again? What if we started to experience relationships again with people without having expectations on them whatsoever? How great would that be to not have an expectation on someone above you, someone below you, someone next to you? You just want to experience their presence with you. And then imagine if we did that with God, how could that be? I'm going to leave you with that. What do you think about that wrap up? What do you think about putting an expectation, or how about this, setting a goal and then letting God fill in that experience, right? I don't have any expectations. I'm going to let him do his work, and I'm just going to experience. How does that go? Discuss that in your group. See how it goes. Thanks. Have a good Sunday.